And I want to talk about the struggle of resistance, because the slides talk about a history of how we start to organize in our network as Indigenous peoples, speaking for ourselves on these issues about something that is very sacred, and that's the environment. But it's not just the environment in the box, because we stood up as Indigenous peoples here in the belly of the beast, in the United States, reframing the environmental movement, because it's not just environment in the box, it's where we live, it's our spirituality, it's our home, it's our minds, it's our spirit. It's not in the box at all. It's how we get jobs, it's economic justice as well. So we started this movement 16 years ago by people and elders such as Roberta Blackgoat from Dene Nation, standing up in defense of Big Mountain. And many people who went to the UN, voicing our concerns as human rights issues. People like Dorothy Purley from the Jack Powell mine, Laguna, from New Mexico, who died of cancer, who stood up saying, we want cleanup of this uranium mine. The legacy after legacy of unsustainable mineral extraction, and now we're dealing with climate change. There's many issues here, and it's a compounding change that's taken place, mixing the effects of climate with pollution and many of these other issues, to where our people on the front lines who are dealing, we have land-based cultures. We still eat from the land in many of our territories. So if that food is contaminated, our people are contaminated. In the homeland of some of the women that just spoke, the breast milk has contamination of DDT. We're having a lot of these issues, so that's why we need your help about a lot of these issues that we're talking about. Economic globalization is something that we're very familiar with. Over 200, 500 years ago, we understand globalization and all the tools that are utilized by governments and by church, and how the armies are used in their definition of progress. So we understand what it is, and many of the legal instruments that they incorporated that we're still dealing with, legal instruments that define ownership and patent over life itself, nature. We are the crossroads, very serious crossroads, to where our message as Indigenous people to the world, to people here in New York, is that we have to redefine our relationship to the sacredness to Mother Earth. We have to redefine what that is for you. People here in New York are very important in our movement to build support in our struggle. Now we're dealing with climate change, and there's a lot of things, and one of the other speakers going to be speaking has done a lot in this area. But in the way that we're talking about commodification and ownership of what is sacred, ownership of water, ownership of land, ownership of life itself, our DNA. Now we're dealing with another market-based solution to deal with climate change, the ownership of the carbon of the air, the dumping of carbon into the air. And now they're starting to trade carbon, so that a petroleum industry from the north can continue to dump carbon into the atmosphere and get away with it by planting eucalyptus trees in the global south. That's causing the removal of local communities. That's drawing water out of the earth. So what is it that we have as society, whenever it has problems that it's dealing with, that it relies back on market-based solutions? When we see time and time again that woven in with these solutions, we got to have environmental ethics as human beings. And that is a message that our network promotes all the time, is to redefine what your relationship is to the sacredness of Mother Earth, or however you define that. In our movement building, we bring our youth into our work. We bring our elders. We participated in what we called a Red Road to Johannesburg, to the World Summit on Sustainable Development. Some of these slides were from that, where we started to meet and organize from the local communities who are the frontline communities, because we are the face. Our network is a grassroots organization. We do not take federal funding. We are grassroots. So where we started to organize ourselves as grassroots with the grassroots indigenous peoples of other regions of the world, being very strategic in our organizing, but knowing that we have to build our base and we have to reaffirm our traditional knowledge and the tools that we use. Some are modern tools, like this slide presentation. And then it also takes us to the World Trade Organization. Our network was involved with many other organizations that are here and that are out there in the battle in Seattle, the third ministerial meeting of the World Trade Organization, to where we sang with our voices. We marched with the people with the same message that we need to come together in this movement, global movement as grassroots people of the world, breaking down cultural barriers, breaking down racial barriers, bringing the people from the city to the rural, to the country area. But woven in this is also stepping forward as indigenous peoples to speak for ourselves on these issues and to define the solutions that meet our needs, the right to self-determination, the right to redefine how development means to us. So these are very important efforts that we've made. There's many things that I would like to talk about, but again, we have a lot of people on the panel. One thing that we're planning here in the United States, part of an effort that started in Seattle, was to come together with all our support groups. And we're planning June 27th to July 1st, United States Social Forum. There's many different strategies that indigenous peoples have used. We're working within the framework of the United Nations, but some of us also work with civil society and social forums. Some of the slides you see here at the bottom are the World Trade Organization meeting in Cancun, where we participated. We did participate in negotiations on trade instruments, protecting our indigenous rights. But we did participate in civil society parallel events, and some of our people marched in the streets, taking down the barriers that divide our people. They spend millions of dollars in security to talk about free trade. But we've been participating in a lot of these. This was where the Korean farmer took his life in Cancun, and he was only a short distance from our delegation as he took his life on that fence, because these are life and death issues. But these are the few remarks I wanted to say to you to get your support, that another world is possible. Another world is possible. But we have to come again back full circle to redefine what your relationship is to the sacredness of our Mother Earth. Thank you. Dr.